Have you ever wondered how far love can take you? For this young couple, their love story began in a small Nigerian salon and led them to the United Kingdom. But what happened next? Well, let's just say it's a tale of hope, sacrifice, betrayal, and a question that remains unanswered. Should he forgive her or walk away? Stay tuned to the end because you won't believe how this ends. The morning sunlight filtered through the slatted windows of the bustling Lagos salon. Women chattered loudly, sharing neighborhood gossip while the scent of hair relaxers hung in the humid air. Adana, a 26-year-old stylist, worked diligently on a client's braids, her hands moving with practiced precision. Despite the lively environment, her mind was elsewhere. She often dreamed of a life beyond this cramped space, a life where she didn't have to breathe in the chemical fumes or endure the relentless demands of impatient customers. Adana's dream was simple: escape. Escape from the relentless cycle of poverty that had gripped her family for generations. She wanted a better life not just for herself but for the children she imagined having one day. And her boyfriend, Chidi, shared the same dream. It was this shared vision that had bound them together through the years. Chidi, an ambitious 28-year-old man, was a dreamer with a plan. Unlike many of his peers who settled for the meager jobs available in Lagos, he had set his sights on higher education abroad. While others laughed at his lofty goals, Adana had always believed in him. One day, he would often say, "We'll leave this place and build a future no one can take from us." One sweltering afternoon, the salon door burst open, startling everyone inside. Chidi stood in the doorway, clutching an envelope in his hands, his face alight with joy. "Adana," he called, his voice echoing over the chatter. "It's here." Adana turned, her heart racing. She wiped her hands on her apron and approached him cautiously. "What's here?" she asked, though deep down she already knew. Chidi handed her the envelope, his hands trembling. "My admission letter. I've been accepted into the master's program in the UK." The salon erupted in cheers as Adana clutched the letter, tears streaming down her face. She looked at Chidi with a mix of disbelief and joy. "Chidi, this is it. This is our chance. We're finally leaving." "Yes," Chidi said, pulling her into a tight embrace. "And you're coming with me. We'll build our future together." The weeks leading up to their departure were a whirlwind of activity. Chidi and Adana spent their days navigating the maze of visa applications, borrowing money from friends and family to cover expenses, and saying bittersweet goodbyes to their loved ones. For Chidi, it was a mix of excitement and responsibility. He had promised Adana a better future, and now the weight of that promise hung heavily on his shoulders. Their court wedding was a modest affair held in a small registry office in Lagos. Adana wore a simple white dress borrowed from a cousin, while Chidi donned his best suit, which had seen better days. Yet, as they exchanged vows, their smiles lit up the room. "It's not about where we start," Chidi whispered to Adana as they signed the marriage certificate. "It's about where we're headed." Finally, the day arrived. They boarded the plane with a mix of nervous excitement and a hint of fear. For Adana, it was her first time on an airplane, and she clutched Chidi's hand tightly during takeoff. As the plane ascended, she looked out the window, watching the sprawling city of Lagos shrink into the distance. "This is it," she thought. "Our lives will never be the same." The reality of life in the UK hit them hard. Their tiny apartment was nothing like the spacious homes they had imagined. The cold, damp weather was a stark contrast to the warmth of Nigeria. Chidi started his master's program, diving into a rigorous schedule of lectures and assignments, while Adana began her job hunt. It wasn't easy. Adana faced rejection after rejection, her confidence wavering with each polite email thanking her for her application but declining her services. Chidi, ever the optimist, reassured her. "Don't worry," he said one evening as they sat in their cramped living room, poring over job boards. "Something will come through. We just have to keep trying." Their perseverance paid off when Adana received a call from a care home offering her a full-time position. The pay wasn't great, but it was steady. and it meant they could start paying off their debts. "This is the first step," Chidi said, beaming with pride. "We're on our way." As Adana settled into her job, she began to earn more than Chidi, whose part-time security job barely covered his personal expenses. At first, she didn't mind. She remembered their agreement and the sacrifices Chidi was making to complete his education. But over time, resentment began to creep in. "Why should I be the one carrying all the financial burden?" she thought one evening as she counted her wages. She glanced at Chidi, who was hunched over his laptop, working on an assignment. "He's the one who brought me here. Shouldn't he be doing more?" Their conversations became more strained. Chidi would bring up his tuition fees, reminding Adana of their earlier agreement. "I'm doing this for us," he would say. "Once I graduate, things will get better." But Adana's patience was wearing thin. She was exhausted from her long shifts, and the pressure of being the primary breadwinner was taking its toll. With her newfound financial independence, Adana began to indulge in small luxuries. At first, it was a new phone to replace her outdated one. Then it was designer handbags, Brazilian hair extensions, and the latest fashion trends. "I deserve this," she told herself. "I work hard for my money." Chidi, on the other hand, was growing increasingly frustrated. Their shared dreams seemed to be slipping away as Adana's priorities shifted. One evening, as he reviewed his tuition bill, he turned to Adana. "I need your help with this payment," he said. "It's due next week, and I don't have enough." Adana looked at him, her expression blank. "I can't," she said flatly. "I have my expenses." "Your expenses?" Chidi asked, incredulous. "What about the plan we had? The sacrifices we agreed to make?" Adana shrugged. "Plans change." The tension between them reached its breaking point one cold winter night. Chidi returned home from work, exhausted and hungry, only to find that Adana hadn't cooked or cleaned. The apartment was in disarray, and the fridge was nearly empty. "Adana," he said, his voice trembling with frustration, "what's going on? You've changed. This isn't the woman I married." Adana, lounging on the couch, barely looked up. "I'm tired, Chidi. I work hard all day. If you want food, cook it yourself." Chidi's patience snapped. "I'm working too. I'm studying, working, and trying to keep us afloat while you spend money on things we don't need. This isn't what we agreed on."
Adana stood up, her eyes blazing. "I'm not your slave, Chidi. I'm not here to fund your dreams while mine get ignored." Their argument lasted for hours, with each hurling accusations and frustrations at the other. By the end, they were both drained, and the love that had once bound them felt like a distant memory. Despite the turmoil at home, Chidi refused to give up. He threw himself into his studies, determined to succeed no matter the cost. Sensing his struggles, his mother made the ultimate sacrifice, selling the family land to pay his tuition fees. Chidi's days were long and grueling. He often walked miles to save on transportation costs, his thin jacket barely protecting him from the biting cold. Yet he pressed on, driven by a vision of a brighter future. "I can't let her or anyone else hold me back," he thought as he submitted his final assignment. "This is my chance to change everything." When Chidi graduated, he felt a mixture of relief and pride. He had done it against all odds. But what to do about his marriage weighed heavily on him. Adana had drifted so far from the woman he had once loved. Could they ever find their way back to each other? One evening, Chidi sat alone, staring at his visa renewal application. Adana's name stared back at him from the spouse section. Should I include her? He wondered aloud. Does she deserve another chance? Love, sacrifice, betrayal, the story has it all. Now, it's your turn to weigh in. Should he forgive her and rebuild their marriage, or leave her behind and start fresh? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If this story moves you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Follow us for more thought-provoking stories that touch the soul. See you in the next one.